How's it going, listeners of NPK Live? Yes, we're back after that horrendous lockdown. We've got a special podcast for you today. One to introduce you back to the podcast after one of the longest breaks that we've ever had. And we'll be getting into what's gone on and what's been happening. But we are back, and it is episode 222, House and Garden Podcast. We're a special one today. We've got calling in from California. We've got James from House and Garden. And we have Merlin from Nutriculture as well. Right, that's enough of me talking and getting on your nerves. Let's get straight into episode 222 with the House and Garden Podcast.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, I've got that. Everyone watching, the whole family.
Are you ready to go? Are you built to be in the house that I built in the house that I built?
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast.
How's it going, bud?
Good.
Excellent.
That sound all right?
That sounds brilliant, especially as soon as you're thousands of miles away.
Yeah, I'll say.
Crazy technology. So you're on with myself and Merlin, and I think we were going to try and maybe get Nate in on the call if he's available, but not a problem if he can't make it.
Yeah, I was thinking it might just be me, actually.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Have you got your cup of coffee, tea, water to hand?
Yeah, I think I'm all set to go.
Happy days. Well, listen, we may as well crack on. So I'm going to introduce you, and I'm going to do a little bit of an intro as well, because this is actually our first podcast back in over since December 15th. We haven't done a podcast because of lockdown and all that sort of stuff. So this is podcast 222, and you are the first one of 2021.
Here we are.
Right, so let's go.
All right.
Hello, everybody. I bet you haven't missed our voices, have you? Or have you? You let us know. We are back. The crazy lockdown, touch wood, is ending. And we are back to hit you up with our podcast. We've got a very special one. Barry's not with us this week. We're going to go into a little bit of science. I've got a special guest, Merlin, with me. How are you doing, Merlin?
I'm good, thank you.
And Merlin's from Nutriculture, and we are talking about house and garden. And this is episode 222, House and Garden Podcast. So go and get your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, your water, whatever you need to listen to a good hour of scientific nutrients and podcasting. And we'll be back after the intro. Welcome back. I have missed you all. We're not live. We're not filming yet because it's still difficult to get these podcasts done. We're filming it or we're recording at weird hours. This one is 7:00 in the evening. Yep. So, Merlin, thank you very much for joining us in this Twilight podcast.
Twilight podcast. It's been a long day.
It has it. And do you know what? I don't mind doing these ones, but we've got another special guest. We've got James from House and Garden. James, how's it going?
It's going well, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Not a problem. It's absolutely our pleasure. What time is it over there and whereabouts are you calling in from?
It's 11:03 in sunny Lake Tahoe, California.
Oh, that's good. Listen, the Californians, our California podcasts always do well. I don't know what it is about the accent, or I don't know what it is about the oranges that you grow, but our listeners love a California podcast. So thank you again for joining us. And
absolutely.
it's been a bit of a mad, crazy year, hasn't it? So me and Barry's normally with me on the podcast, but he's taken a back seat this week. He doesn't like to get too heavily involved in the science podcasts, but it's been a crazy year. What's it been like for you, James? What's it been like out in California, out in the US?
It has been wild, man. Very, very different from my average years here with House and Garden. You know, I'm an international sales rep, so they have me going out to Australia, over to Spain for Spannabis, out to see you guys. I've only made it once so far, but yeah, I mean, this whole thing kind of came crashing down on us as we booked our flights for Spannabis. We're getting ready to go to the airport, and we caught wind of this, you know, this pandemic here. So it kind of put a halt on a lot of things for us here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But so we're not exactly hitting the road like we used to, and we're really relying more than ever on the word of mouth. You know, that's kind of what's helped make our company. You know, we don't really do a ton of advertising. If you come over here into the US, it's pretty much, you know, about House and Garden because your boy uses House and Garden and he has awesome results. So it's all kind of passed on through word of mouth because it works. And yeah, it's definitely been an approach that we've had to rely heavily on here. Now we've got social media. So, you know, if you guys are on Instagram, you got to go check out. It's @HNGE_cup hunters. That's how you can see the House and Garden products live in use, the full line, doing awesome things, helping people winning cups. And so we kind of relied on the family of cup hunters, we call them, to help spread the word during the pandemic here, as we're getting back to the road now.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's been pretty much our people that are going on Instagram and showing people, hey, look, House and Garden is doing an awesome job for me. They're getting their friends to try it out. And we're building this awesome family of cup hunters. I mean, we're really continuing to carry that family feel that the Van de Schwan family started, you know, over 30 years ago.
So listen, we're gonna get into the history because I will hold my hands up, and I know about House and Garden. We've had them, you may or may not know, as well as the podcast. We also have a shop, and we've stocked House and Garden since day one. And it's one of the nutrients that you had to have on your shelf, and you continue to have to have on your shelf. But what's the situation been like in the US with lockdowns and operating the businesses, and how do you think it's impacted on House and Garden nutrients? Have you really relied on social media is that been your main channel to speak and hear from the people using it?
Yeah, it's definitely been a good channel to keep the word of mouth going. But I mean, you know, here with the pandemic, we had a lot of the businesses go completely down at first. It was like kind of a scary ghost town walking around Lake Tahoe for a little while. You could go out to the main highway and cross without looking both ways. And it was like, it was just spooky. Shops were closed, but very quickly, something that was illegal for a very long time, I mean, worldwide, it's had its challenges, went from being something that was illegal to being something that was considered essential. So I'm speaking, of course, about the medical cannabis over on this side of town. And like, you know, we've had medical laws since 1996 in California, and recently recreational laws that came into play. But these things, you know, it was a hard long fight, as you guys know, over there. And here it went to being essential. So all these businesses are allowed to open their doors to people who need their medicine. In addition, a lot more of these people that are staying home. And I don't know if you guys are having it over there, but we've had an opioid crisis over here. So people are trying to get off of these opioids and looking for alternative medicines. Yeah. And so it's really let that side of like the medical cannabis industry thrive. So we saw a massive boom in sales, and a lot of that is contributing to people who just want to grow their own medicine. You know, these people, you could go get it from a dispensary at a very high cost, or you could go get it from a shady guy on the corner, and you don't really know what's gone into it as far as if they're using PGRs, if there's a nasty amount of heavy metals or pesticides and fungicides that are sprayed on that. So, and just growing your own, even if it's a tomato, I mean, there's nothing better than eating a tomato that you grew, except smoking a big bud that you grew.
Well, listen, you're 26, you're 25 years ahead of us, like 1996. Yeah, we're not even there yet. It's 2021. Mm-hmm. So as much as this podcast advocates for the ability for people to get medicinal cannabis, I'm a scientist. I love the scientific method. And I'm a scientist at heart. I believe in what science can prove. And science has proven globally that the medicinal effects of cannabis are not to be ignored, but we are far behind yourselves, and we have to use at the moment, because growing any type of cannabis in the UK is illegal. The people who may want to have got to practice, like you say, with tomatoes. We practice ourselves using tobacco plants. We love tobacco plants. We don't actually smoke the end product, but just growing the tobacco plants, absolutely gorgeous, produces gorgeous flowers. So it's great that House and Garden is used for those products, for that type of growing in California. But you're rubbing salt in the wound, dude. Like you're just rubbing it in that we're 25 years behind.
Sorry, guys. You guys will all get there.
Hopefully.
So are you in a way saying we're going to basically stick to talking about tomatoes at this point?
No, not at all. So if you're UK grower, then they will be just growing tomatoes and whatever herbs and vegetables that they want to grow. But no, for California and from where you're based, it's legal. It's medicinally legal. You're more than happy crack on, talk about the cannabis industry in California. But our UK growers will appreciate it if you talked about your orange growing and your tomato growing, because obviously they don't rub salt in the wound. They can't grow that sort of stuff here. One day when it's allowed. But no, if you want to talk about the California stuff, I'm more than happy to. You absolutely crack on. But we've got Merlin with us as well, and Merlin, I think, will have been a godsend to Nutriculture, because I've watched some of his videos, and because how the likes of yourselves who are not from the UK haven't been able to get over to the UK, Merlin's been your throughput for the knowledge. So Merlin's been producing these quality videos. You've been doing you proud.
It's been a journey. I've only been with Nutriculture for a little over a year now. But I really got my teeth into House and Garden.
Yeah.
It was something that I felt quite passionate about. Speaking to the guys in the States, especially James and a couple of the other lads, it's their passion for it shows through everything, and their knowledge and just the basis of everything behind what they believe in to do with House and Garden. They've pushed it forward. So I've latched onto that, and I do think that we have a big stand-in for House and Garden in the UK.
Yeah.
The lockdown has proved that. We all struggled quite a lot with the amount of work that we had to do.
Yeah.
Shops got busier. Some shops did close. But all in all, sales have been booming, just like James's, effectively.
We were one of those that closed. We actually had the boom for a month, and then nobody knew what this lockdown was, James. So we actually closed our shop for the first lockdown, and then it eased off, and we looked at the stats and what was actually going on. We thought, as long as we keep ourselves safe, we were in our own little work bubble, we're okay to crack on. And then we came back in the summer, and it's been a mad year. Has it been the same for you, James?
Yeah, it was about maybe a week or two that we were fully shut down there for a second. And then basically being located in Humboldt County, the big agricultural sector up in Northern California.
Yeah.
And all the ag workers, being considered essential for the production of food crops, were getting right back to work as soon as possible, and just kind of, using their PPE and making sure that they're keeping that 6-foot distance, and just making it as cautious as possible to continue their processes over there. So we've been cranking since probably a week or two after the big lockdown, and we haven't stopped since then. The demand is so crazy high right now. We're running 7 and 10-hour shifts a week. So
that's crazy, isn't it? It's amazing how people have adapted, and this is something that the world hasn't gone through in over 100 years. And how people have adapted and pivoted and changed business. And been able to just adjust to what the new social normalities are, and we've been able to do quite well. I say we've been doing a podcast, but we also have a media company, and we've got our shop, and I'm very, very grateful to be part of this industry, because I see a lot of people, especially the hospitality sector. I don't know if it's the same in America, but the hospitality sector, the pubs, the cinemas, the bars, the restaurants, they've really suffered. And I'm just very proud to be part of this industry, which has managed to crack on and push through. How's it been for you? The hospitality sector been hit hard?
I would say we're in the same lucky position that you're feeling right now. Yeah. We've had, my girlfriend works hospitality. She was down for like nearly 5 months, you know, we've had people that are getting some income assistance by the government. So that's been helpful. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these businesses have struggled. Many of them have had to close their doors, you know, completely shutting down. So it's that, we've seen businesses that have been in town for upwards of like 50 years that have not been able to make it through the pandemic.
That's madness, isn't it? But there's light at the end of the tunnel now. And even though there's light at the end of the tunnel, we're going to go back to the beginning and a little bit of a history about House and Garden. I think unless you were brand new to our industry, so anyone that's listening that's just joined the industry in terms of working for a wholesaler or a manufacturer, you may not have heard of House and Garden. But if you've been in it for more than 3 months, then you've heard of House and Garden. Where did it all start, James? And why did you start up House and Garden? There's always a great story about why these companies, why the people made nutrients. So where did it all start and why?
Okay. So, back in 1990, in a town called Almere, Holland, it's not too far outside of Amsterdam, there was a big greenhouse operation that had been operated through 3 generations of farmers they were into farming roses, orchids, and tulips. And actually, like back in the day, they had received a special accreditation from the Pope at the time for their work in the Almere flower auctions. So it's a very well-known family called the Van de Schwan family. And they had a great-great-grandson named William Van de Schwan. And William, as much as we like our roses, orchids, and tulips, he was interested in some of the flowers that we like over here on the California end of the pond, as well as over there in Amsterdam. So he got going with these years of experience passed on through generations of farming, and applied his knowledge as well as some of these ancient recipes that his family's been working on. I mean, yeah, we've got recipes today that are well over 30 years old. We've got relationships with the people from Norway to this very day. They supply all of our cold pressed sea kelp. So yeah, they got started out that way. About, what would that be? Maybe 5-6 years ago. Some things kind of started to change around the Netherlands. There were some political changes, I believe, where people started feeling some pressure to kind of push out that sort of industry. And basically, we saw some other nutrient companies move to Spain at that point, as well as he had kind of faced some allegations and offered the company over to the American distributors, which at the time was exclusively Humboldt Wholesale. So in America, it's all distributed through HW, we call it.
Yeah.
But they were offered this company because, you know, things were kind of tightening up over there in Holland, and they jumped at the chance and were able to actually. They went over to Almere, broke down the entire bottling facility. I mean, all of the old bottling machines, the bottling lines, everything, brought over to Humboldt County, California, which, as you know, it's the Emerald Triangle, right in the heart of the Emerald Triangle.
Yeah. And
rebuilt the whole facility in a zero waste facility. It's over 100,000 square feet. And they actually made use of an old lumber mill. So the lumber industry is really well known in the Humboldt County area as well. In fact, I went to school in Humboldt County, and our mascot was the lumberjack. So kind of frowned upon now because we had those big, beautiful redwood trees, and we're not trying to be supportive of deforestation. So there's even talk about changing the mascot, as well as, the lumber industry is just not what it was then. So we've repurposed an old lumber mill, and we've got just a beautiful bottling facility out there, very clean looking spot. And you can actually check out a video of it on our website at www.house-garden.com. That should redirect you to whichever country's page, and there will be a video on there. You can get a peek at the bottling facility.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing after the end of the podcast. I'm looking forward to having a little look around there. I bet it's much more high tech than anything that we've got in the UK. But no, that's one of the trips. I'll be coming over to the US hopefully in the next 12 months, and it'd be great to come over and see that sort of facility if that's possible and the madness is all calmed down. Quick before we sort of focus on the UK and the products that you're selling into the UK, because we've got a massive audience in the US and Australia and Europe. Whereabouts is House and Garden sold in the world?
Oh man, it's pretty much everywhere at this point. Most recently we've gotten into Japan. We're in Chile. We're all over South America, really. Obviously we're out in Australia. New Zealand just had one of their first medical projects go down using the House and Garden product line. Spain, we're everywhere. We're worldwide,
So anywhere you want to grow indoors, you can get House and Garden.
Absolutely. And we see people do it on an outdoor scale as well. So if you've got space to grow, we can help you do something with it.
Spot on. Now look, it's time for the good stuff. It's your products. It's what we want to get into the nitty gritty with. And I always ask a couple of questions so that people 90% of the people who'll be listening to the podcast will already have a regime, and we're here to tell them about the benefits of House and Garden. What a lot of people do is I'd say majority of people would never ever switch from a full nutrient range to a whole different nutrient range and have to learn about the products and how it affects the plants. So if you'll have one flagship product or one product that a grower should try if they've never tried any of your products before, which one is going to give them like the wow factor? I know what your answer will be. They'll all be wow factor products, but if you had to pick one to use, what would you be using?
Man, it is tough because I like to go towards that younger gardener that seeks the immediate gratification. And I do have two products that I can give you like immediate results, and it always gets those guys interested. But if I had to name one flagship product, it wouldn't be either of them. It would be the Roots Accelerator. Because hands down, for years, people have been using Roots Accelerator with insane results. The product itself it's a 3-in-1 product. Not only do you have over 21,000 colony units of beneficial bacteria in that formula, you've got a seed extract that's loaded with amino acids. You've got the cold pressed sea kelp in there, and that's like a general plant tonic for your plants. It's got a little bit of everything in there. So there's even a vitamin B complex in there, so that'll help with any kind of transplant shock. And basically that alone, I think, will kickstart anybody's success. If you're running any other nutrient line, you can run this product. You might have another root product out there that you think is comparable, but look at the dosage, because oftentimes you might be paying half the price of the Roots Excel bottle, but you're applying twice the dosage. So it all evens out kind of. We've seen that with a number of root enhancing products. And for me, the bigger your roots, the bigger and better your roots, the bigger and better your fruits. So try Roots Accelerator, and that'll make any recipe a success.
Perfect. Merlin has used the full range. Is there a product that you'd say that you'd give to growers to try as a one-off?
I I'm very tempted to agree with James completely. From a nutriculture standpoint, Roots Accelerator is our flagship product.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt the most popular product within the range that we sell. But from a personal experience, I'd say it's got to be the amino treatment.
Yeah.
Most growers that are using a silica or a monosylic acid or anything like that, if they've used certain similar products, this one will impress them. It will tie certain things together. I've used it in conjunction with other lines before using the whole house and garden range, and I found that it did make things sing a lot better together. So as to introduce someone into the range, I think the amino treatment is that sort of immediate effect. Like James was on about, there's a couple of products that you see sort of things happening rather quickly and you go, I can see the impact there. That product is worth it. So I'd say mine would be amino treatment.
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned that, actually, because we've got little talking points about each product, so we'll get into it with Roots and we'll get into it with amino. But I wanted to ask one more question for the growers, and that is for growers that never change any of their regime. We're talking upon deaf ears. Which product from the house and garden range could they use in addition to a full range? So if they were using the full range of CANNA or whatever range they were using, what product from house and garden can they include in another full range and get brilliant results? What do you reckon, James?
For me, I mean, you can incorporate any of the enzyme products into another line. You can incorporate our root enhancing product, like I said, into another line. Really, what you don't want to double down on is like base nutrients and PK. So that's pretty much what I would advise. So for enzymes, we've got two of them: the Multi-Zen and the BudXL.
Yeah.
The Multi-Zen's like more of your soil conditioning enzyme, so it kind of breaks down dead organic matter in your medium, and it makes it available to your plants as food. In addition, because there's other enzyme products out there, this is going to increase the size and effectiveness of your plant's intercambium layer. So I like to call that the plumbing of the plant, because ultimately it's responsible for the uptake and transport of nutrient throughout your system. So when we work to increase the plumbing, it's almost like we're adding a lane to a busy highway to allow more cars through. So it's like we're adding an extra lane to this nutrient highway to allow your plants to uptake and move around more of the food we're going to be providing.
Yeah, I love that analogy, because on the people who know me and been listening to the podcast for a long time, and even the lads who work with me take the piss out of me, because everything has got to come with an analogy. Like, if I can make a story out of something and help explain it, that's how I do it. So the analogy you've used there is, I'm gonna rob that off you. I'm gonna start using that one, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the analogy that I use is for uptake of nutrients, and we're going to get into it a little bit probably with some of these products, but like you say, the plumbing within the plant. I talk a lot about I should have written this stuff down, shouldn't I? You know, when you need to remember something and it's the circle and nutrient interaction circle. So if you type that into Google, I can't remember now whose name was. It'll come to me in a minute. But it's the nutrient interaction circle, and you'll notice that calcium is at the top, and it inhibits or prevents uptake of other nutrients. And I say calcium's like a twin wheeler, double truck lorry, and if you put too much calcium in, it's going to prevent phosphorus, potassium, and the uptake of a lot of nutrients. So I love the analogies. I appreciate that the extra highway and the motorway can work well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Merlin, do you have a product that you would use on top of another range? Is there anything that you've used alongside other things?
Again, it's difficult to disagree with James with the multizyme, as most growers will know the benefits of enzymes. And the combination of enzymes, vitamins, it does do exactly what it does. And the highway analogy, I've used it myself because I've taken that from those guys. But the other one to have a different aspect on it would be the Magic Green, the foliar spray.
Okay.
I think a lot is to be said for foliar sprays these days. There's a few really good ones out on the market, but I still speak to a few growers that have no intention of spraying anything on their crops at any point.
Yeah.
So I think to bring that into it, it's always going to help. It's going to help with your photosynthesis. It's going to help with any sort of bug infestation that you might be getting and prevention of those sort of things. So again, you'd be able to slide that into any sort of nutrient regime and not have it impact anything that is already in there effectively.
Perfect, spot on. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of each product now, and we'll pick up on more of those points. So we're going to talk about what each product does, how it does it, and when somebody should use them. And I put little bullet points that I'd like to mention. So we're going to start off with, like you say, probably the most well-known house and garden product. It's Root Accelerator Gold Bottle. Why do you think it is the most well-known product in your range, James?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it works, man. It's one of those products that speaks for itself. I mean, if we go to a trade show and we hand somebody a bottle, they're usually back at the next trade show thanking us and telling us, man, that changed my whole approach to gardening. You know, once I tried the Roots Accelerator, then I wanted to see what else House and Garden had to offer. So that's kind of like a good introduction to the line. The product itself, it's got only the best ingredients, you know, from the kelp from Holland to the seed extract that's full of amino acids to proprietary blend of beneficial bacteria within it. So all of those things in one, I mean, provide you with a product that you can use at a very, very low dilution. So it's 1 milliliter per gallon here in the U.S., and it's 0.3 milliliter per liter over there, pretty much everywhere other than the U.S. We're the difficult ones. But I mean, that's one product that we can give to somebody that's going to get them interested in the rest of the product line. So that's kind of why I feel we're most well known for it. Also, it's got a sexy gold bottle. So
I was going to say that's the most important reason. It's nothing to do with what's in it. You've got a sexy gold bottle.
It's just that flashy bottle that sells it.
Is there a reason that you have a metal bottle? Because I know for some products it's a needs must. Is there a reason other than it looking sexy the House and Garden use a very solid, sturdy metal bottle?
Certain products like, and I'd say Root Accelerator is a bit light sensitive. Yeah. So having like some of these plastic bottles, we've actually seen changes in pigments in other products just for being left out in the light. So this is one that we protect with a sturdy metal bottle, as well as, you know, it just deserves that better presentation.
It does. It stands out on the shelf as well. When are you recommending to use Roots Accelerator?
We use Roots Accelerator here in the U.S. From the very beginning of the clone seedling stage all the way till your 4th week of flower. Mm-hmm. At the end of the 4th week, we drop that out in addition to some of the other veg supplements we've been working with. And basically we're just building up the root zone. You know, that's an important thing for us. Like I said before, the bigger and better your roots, the bigger and better your fruits. So we try to get that in there as early as we can, because some of these like mycorrhizae type of bacteria take about 21 days to become fully established in the root zone and get that symbiotic relationship going with your roots so that they can break down these nutrients that we're throwing at them and make them more available.
Spot on. And then this is probably going to be the most difficult question. This is really going to tax you, this one, because if you don't know, then you stumped on the answer. It stumped me, to be honest, until I had to go and find out. The big question from the UK growers is, what is the difference between the gold and the silver bottle? Can you answer that for us, please?
Yeah, I mean, for a store owner, the easiest way to explain it to a customer is to say, use the silver for your hydroponic application, use the gold for your, soil cocoa or soilless mediums. But to dive into it just a bit deeper, there is a bacterial difference. Mm-hmm. So the silver was the original formula. So it has about 11,000 colony forming units of bacteria in there. It's got a seed extract. It's got a vitamin B complex. and it's got that cold pressed sea kelp in there. However, we doubled the bacteria count when we switched over to the gold, and we produced what we feel is a better product. So we actually at one point in time had taken the silver bottle off of the shelf, only to have a bunch of our hydroponic growers, as well as just the veterans that have been running the product for 10, 15 years, just go, hey, what are you doing taking away our silver bottle? We want our silver bottle. And so we did ultimately bring it back for those guys that were too stubborn to make the switch. But I will note that we did see in like these highly aerated systems, like deep water culture, aeroponics, we did see a bit of foaming and a funky smell at full strength. So we've actually played around with it, and we've noted that you can run in like an aeroponic cloner or a turbo cloner. You can run a quarter strength of the gold in there. Yeah. Or in a hydroponic system, you can run half strength of the gold and still run air stones and have a highly oxygenated environment. And you won't have the foaming and the funky smell that comes from over oxygenating the bacteria. The other solution is to just run the silver. So if that's the simplest thing to do if you're a hydroponic gardener, is run the silver. It'll save you a headache of having to worry about over oxygenating anything.
Cool. Do you use what are systems like in the US? Is there a lot of we use one of our most well known systems is AutoPot, and the reason I mention them is because they used to have thin-ish lines. Now they've gone to a bigger line. Do you use AutoPots much in the US?
They're definitely here in our market for sure. I don't see a ton of them. Yeah. But I do, like my coworker Casey. He's a rep out on the East Coast, and I think he does some work with Nutriculture as well. He runs an AutoPot system, and I believe he's using the Roots Accelerator Silver in that just for the viscosity of the product. I think it's a little more viscous than your gold formula.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah. So you'd advise people in systems where they use thin lines to go with the silver Root Accelerator.
Oh, very much.
Yeah, that's always a good move.
Spot on. What's the difference between gold and silver, Merlin, in the UK? Is there much difference is it mostly gold?
I'd say gold is still the predominantly sold Roots Accelerator out of the two. I'd always advise people that are running deep water culture that they should go with the silver. Yeah. Whether or not they hear, like James says, always tell them to knock that down a little bit. Yeah. The cloning technique that James is just on about was something that I wanted to mention as well. Yeah. A lot of people are skipping over that. They're thinking, I need roots to be feeding my Roots Accelerator. No, it can create roots. So if you've got an aeroponic cloner or an easy cloner or anything like that, a quarter strength, so effectively 0.1 milliliter to your tank in that, your roots are going to come through relatively quicker than you would. And this is where I say it is a good product for the impact that it has. Protecting and keeping a healthy rhizosphere, it will prevent any sort of root rot or pythium coming onto there. It's not a cure for it, but it has got that prevention in there. Yeah. So it has that massive impact to it. You're going to see an explosive root growth. Yeah. So it does bring people into it, and it does sell itself effectively. It does what it does. It's the proof in the pudding, I think, is the main thing with that one.
Okay. Well, the root, if you've never heard of House and Garden, then the first thing to do is, if you want to try out, is go and get your Root Accelerator gold or silver, depending on the system. The problem that Nutriculture have got is that and the problem that you may have had, James, is that the Root Accelerator, like you say, sings for itself. But I know Nutriculture are like, listen, the Root Accelerator is great, but you're missing out on 3-4 other phenomenal products, and we need to do a bit of singing and dancing about these other products because they're just as good. People aren't using them, or they're just not aware of them yet. So that's where we're going to get on to with I think Nutriculture, you call them the Big Four?
No, the Super Six.
Super Six. Oh, there's even more. This podcast gets better as we go.
There was 5. We brought it up to 6. But it's because we've included the Roots Accelerator in that, whereas before that was it's a standalone product. So we were trying to get the other 5 brought up to speed with it. But yeah, the Multi-Zen, the Bud XL, the Top Shooter, and the Shooting Powder
Yeah.
These all come together to make the Super 6. Oh, and the immuno treatment as well, sorry. These all come together to make the Super 6. And it's the building blocks, the foundation for a great plant and a great grower at the end of the day.
Perfect. So let's kick off the Super 6 with Multi-Zen. This is going to be a good podcast for people that are still with us and interested, because we're going to get into, for growers and nutrients, a lot of the stuff that you don't get to hear about a lot. So we're going to kick off with Multi-Zen, which is the House and Gardens enzyme product. James, can you tell us what enzymes are in there? Why are they important to the plant? Why should a grower even use an enzyme product?
Well, it is so it's called Multi-Zyme in the UK, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Multi-Zen here in the States, Multi-Zyme out there. It is a proprietary blend of enzymes. And these enzymes, in comparison to some of the other enzymes that are out there on the market, these are going to be your microbe-friendly enzymes. So enzymes are basically, they're specialized proteins that soil microbes use to make nutrients available for microbial and plant uptake. So they break down your organic matter into small molecules for the plants to absorb through their cell walls. So just making things more available, these larger particles that might not be readily absorbed, they can be assisted by these enzymes. So our enzyme is compared to, say, some of these enzymes that are advertised to be cleaning like a hospital, per se, like they're using them for sterilization purposes. Our enzymes are going to be a little more microbe friendly. So you can introduce it to a root zone that's chock full of beneficial bacteria, and you know that those enzymes are going to function well alongside rather than do any damage to the bacteria that's present within. That is just the one function of the Multi-Zen. And then again, as I had mentioned before, the increase in that nutrient highway that we were talking about.
Yeah, so this is the product that takes your 2-lane, 3-lane motorway and puts on the hard shoulder there for extra nutrients to get through. We call it a hard shoulder. If I just said something there, what do you call it in America?
A hard shoulder? Is that a lane where you kind of have to merge?
Yeah, it's a lane fit in case you break down. And I'm always aware, like, what you call it?
We would call that. We'd call that a shoulder. Yeah, the shoulder.
Okay,
I've never heard hard shoulder.
Yeah, I've had to become really aware of it because we use a lot of colloquialisms in the UK, and I get a lot of American people messaging the podcast saying, love the last podcast, but what on earth were you talking about when you said this? And I've got to be aware that some of the stuff that we say might not be understood around the world. So hard shoulders, where you go if your car's fucked. And it's what we're talking about to get the extra nutrients up into your plants. To bring it back to for growers to be able to understand, there's when we're talking about enzymes, we do this in the UK, or I do definitely. You put pineapple on top of your gammon, or you have egg on top of your gammon. Do you do that in the US?
You put pineapple or egg on top as like to dress it up.
Yeah, well, it does taste nice, but it's actually its use, especially with pineapple and the egg. They contain enzymes that break down the gammon. They break down meat. So you have the gammon; it's quite a thick meat, and you have the pineapple or egg, and the egg and the pineapple contain enzymes that start the digestion of the meat, so it allows you to digest the meat quicker. Is that something that you do in the US?
They might be doing it out here. You're talking about food. You're talking about food now, right?
Food, yes. So it's something that people do in the UK all the time. When you have gammon, it comes with pineapple or egg.
Enzymes.
Yeah, so it's for the enzymes.
We've got like probiotic drinks that have all kinds of enzymes that you drink, and they're supposed to make for like a healthy gut function.
Yeah.
So
there's a few people into that sort of thing.
Similar, right?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I remember this from A-level biology. In our saliva, we have an enzyme called amylase, and it breaks down starches. So it's just I'm mentioning this stuff, James, just so people can understand that enzymes are everywhere. They're in your own spit, and they're used to break down foods for easy digestion, and that's what we use them for in plants.
Sure.
Like you're saying, it's just easier uptake of all the nutrients.
Well, like you say, they're there for breaking down things as well. So they will break down the old nutrients that are trapped. The old roots that are trapped. The old roots, so you're getting rid of the nutrients that are trapped there within. Oh, I get my words out. So yeah, there's so many beneficials to do it. I know a lot of growers will use them anyway, but I think you're very much right in what you say. They're probably not aware as to why they're using them. It's something that's either been passed down or it's because it's in that range. So you go for it. But yeah, they're there to break down any sort of dead roots that are there to help with the pathways of the nutrition through the plant, and also to release anything that is locked away.
Spot on. And they're not essential. You'll grow a plant absolutely fine without them. But if you're serious, which most people who listen to this podcast are serious because you listen to the podcast, enzymes are a real good addition to your range. And if you're interested in the house and garden, then try out their Multizyme, or if you're in the US, the Multizen. When are you using it? Is it throughout the whole growth cycle, James?
We just use it up until the 4th week of flower. So we're focused on the plant structure at that point. And then at that point, we hit our top booster. We start to focus more on the flower, and we change from the Multizen over to the flowering enzyme, which is the BudXL. It looks like we got another product in between that we're going to talk about, though.
Yeah, the amino treatment. This is another one similar to enzymes. It's I'm going to make aminos like a bit of a buzzword. Like back in the day when we started the podcast, I've been a massive fan of silica for years and years and years. Before the monosilicics were out, really, people were buying potassium silicates, and I just got into silica, started using them, saw the benefits, and I've now come across the benefits of amino acids and how important they are. And I think they're really undervalued in terms of growers. I think as growers, we tend to focus on, nitrogen, like nice, healthy green leaves. Everyone knows the importance of nitrogen. We focus on the importance of calcium and magnesium. Like every grower loves to use CalMag to solve every problem. And your PKs. So in flowering, you're adding your PK. They're like the ones that people focus on. And I want to try and draw attention to the enzymes. I want to draw attention to the amino acids and how they help the plant, and start getting people to look away from what the fancy additives are and look at the additives that really make a difference. So in amino treatments, can you talk about what amino acids that you've got in there, or just how they help the plant?
Yeah, so they're L-amino acids. So these are the ones you want when you're growing plants here. And they're going to be, basically, they're described, I think I heard Merlin say it, as the building blocks of protein. They're just primary components of the machinery cells, and you see them in both humans and plants. So for us, the amino acid, it is, in addition to being that building block, it's also a chelating agent for what has been a secret ingredient here in the U.S. for quite some time. And you guys are actually some of the first to kind of reveal that secret to the public by announcing the silicate on the label there. So that L-amino acid can actually form a shell around your silica particle. They call it a chelate, or do you guys call it chelate out there?
Yeah, we call it chelate, and the word that I think will become very well known in the next 5 years is called amino chelation.
Yes. So that's essentially what one of its major functions in the amino treatment is, a chelating agent. So it's going to actually wrap itself around that silica particle, which is a big deal for us in the U.S. because it's not on the label yet. Mm-hmm. So any traditional silica, the monosilicic is the one that's in our product, but even these other silicates, they usually have to be added to your water very first because of their ability to do this bonding. So if you want everything to be left available, that's usually the first thing that needs to hit your water. But since we have paired it with an L-amino acid, it's going to keep it from interacting with the rest of the particles in your mixture. So you never have to worry about locking anything out or messing anything up. You can add it first. You can add it last. With amino treatment, it's dummy proof. And we call the product Hulk in a bottle. You really see it in a couple weeks' time, the strengthening of your stalks, working on that plant system to thicken up those cell walls and make it more resistant to stresses from pests, disease, even from heat. So if you've got plant stresses that are there in your environment, you can use amino treatment to help combat those, strengthen up those stalks really to get them ready to hold weight at the end, because you're going to be producing fruits and flowers that are sure to weigh them down. So the amino treatment is an important one that we're using in the U.S. at a 2.5 mils per gallon is where we maxed out. We start off small, about 0.8 mils per gallon, and then we creep our way up to 2.5. And we run that from the beginning of veg into that 4th week of flowers. So just like the Roots Accelerator and the Multi-Zen, we're dropping it at the end of the 4th week, and we're switching our focus onto other plant processes.
Perfect. What do you think I'm sort of secluded to our shop in Liverpool, and I know I get a general idea of what goes on in the UK from just talking, but what's the uptake of amino treatments in the UK? Like, is it a good seller? Do you think people need to be more aware of it?
It's started to gain some momentum.
Yeah.
I think just the whole amino acids are starting, like you say, they are going to become a lot bigger within the growing community. More and more people are starting to lock onto them. There is other products out there that have been for a while. I mean, I know you guys have mentioned a lot of them on the podcast before. So that they are there, then they are used. I think it's slowly getting there.
Yeah.
Once people do, like James says, it's called Hulk in a bottle. It is ridiculous. You do see within a week to 2 weeks, everything is strengthening up. Leaves look thicker. You are going to be able to receive more fruit. Some of the chili growers that I've handed this to in little sample bottles and things, they've come back to me saying their yields are just ridiculous because it can now take the weight. They've not got hardly any more support in there and all these sort of things. So I do think it's getting there. It's gained more popularity, and we do still have some work to it, because I think the whole line really it needs to be pushed out there a little bit further. Get more people on it, and they will see the benefits of it.
Get ahead of the curve. Use amino treatment, because if like you say, if you've been listening to us for a while, then we've been not too bad at predicting certain things, and I think enzymes, I think people do know about enzymes, they just maybe not act on it. Well, I'm saying to you, act on it, get those enzymes in there, and get ahead of the curve, get ahead of what all your friends are doing, and start getting amino acids into your regime as well, and try out the amino treatment from House and Garden. It's going to become a hot topic in the next. What's it like in the US, James? Is amino well spoken about, or is it one of those things that people aren't using?
Well, you know what it is? It's becoming more and more popular. You know, the big three for us have been like Roots Accelerator, amino treatment, and shooting powder. The reason it's slowly gaining popularity is because of transparency issues that we have here in the United States. Things are a little difficult in California with our labeling laws.
Yeah.
So there's some hoop jumping going on. In addition to that, the company itself has kind of retained this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bush's Baked Beans, but it's a baked bean company out here that they've retained their secret recipe for all these years. So in a way, I kind of feel like I've started working for a company who thinks they're the Bush's Baked Beans because they're so old, and they're the first to introduce this monosilicic acid, and they think that it's a secret, but in all actuality, it's a selling point.
Yeah.
So I'm working to get a little more transparency for our US users, to really just kind of let people know, hey, this is what's in your product and why it's working so well. So it's been a little bit of an uphill battle here, but it's looking like it's going to work out for us, and the monosilicic acid will be on the label here in the near future.
Fantastic. So I feel like you've been dying to talk about Bud XL. What's the flowering enzyme? What is it? How does it work to finish your plants?
Yeah, the Bud XL is by far one of my favorite products in the line. So basically, we switch using that enzyme, the Multi-Zen, at the end of week 4, and we switch over to the Bud XL. So the Bud XL, a lot of people, they look at the label and they look at the name and they think, oh, that's a high PK additive. Well, it really isn't. It does have a bit of potassium, which is why your EC fluctuates just a tiny bit when you add it to your reservoir.
Yeah.
But it's mostly vitamins and enzymes. And its main function is to transfer sugar within your plant. So your plant stores these sugars in their cell walls and leaves. And these sugars can be transferred with the use of BudXL into your flowering site. So why I like it here in my market, and I'm going to speak about what we're doing in California legally, is a lot of people are using what they call like terpene enhancing products or flavor enhancing products that are essentially forcing flavors onto varieties. Whereas the BudXL, it's going to start using sugars that are native to the variety. So you can grow a whole bunch of different varieties and they're all going to retain their unique terpene profile. So I've been doing some tests here in my own garden with some terpene enhancing products, only to give the end produce to my boss. He lights it up and he's like, they kind of all taste similar. So this will not do that to your end product. This is going to basically give you what your breeder wants you to have. So you're never going to add an additional terpene or force a foreign flavor. It's going to just use those native sugars to help sweeten your product.
Spot on. So for places where it's medicinally legal, the BudXL is, in a way, it's your connoisseurs product, because the connoisseurs really want those natural flavors to come out. The people who, sure, in a way, and I don't mean to put them down, but people who maybe don't care about the plant as much, or they just want to maybe cover their bad grown with lemony additives. That's what you're doing, is you're covering potentially a bad grow up. You're covering up mistakes that you've made, and what the BudXL is going to do is, just like you say, release the natural flavor. So would you agree or disagree with that? It's the connoisseurs really need to get the BudXL in there, because that they want the natural flavors rather than these fake flavors that you can get from certain additives.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. This is the one, if you're spending money on good genetics, if you've got like a nice variety of tomato or citrus that you really want to bring out that natural profile, this is the product that's going to help you do that. So, if you're a connoisseur, I mean, that's why we see it so much in the medical cannabis market, is because the seeds are kind of priced outrageously. So these people are dumping a lot of money into there, and they really want to be able to pick the best of all their entire batch of seeds to keep and make a mother plant from and keep that going. So, not using some of these other terpene enhancing products, and instead using more of like your natural terpene enhancing products is kind of what we're doing with the BudXL.
Nice. This will be like for your guys, for the chili growers, the chili growers, the capsaicin level is all about the oil content. So for the chili growers in the UK, more so than your fruits, because the chili grows after their oils, aren't they? The BudXL is going to be a good product for them.
Yeah, and I mean, when James talks about the terpene profiles and things like, when you're talking about your zest, your oranges, they all carry terpenes as well. Yeah. So if you are growing anything like that, you are going to bring the more natural ability of the plant to express itself in that way. Yeah. So you are going to get more of those sweeter notes to it. And like he says about pulling the sugars away from the leaves, you will see that natural yellowing, purpling, dying back of the leaves almost. Yeah. You do see that quite quickly. I believe, James, there's a study on YouTube where someone's run the full house and garden range and then the same range with an added terpene enhancer on the top. And the results from that.
Yeah, I think it was Merlin.
Yeah.
Myrcene was added to the terpene profile, and it was, if you look them up on YouTube, it's Cali, like California, CALI, crop, CROP, doc, DOC, and he does a side-by-side comparison, house and garden by itself on one end, in House and Garden with another terpene enhancing product on the other, and you can actually see an additional terpene is being added to the profile of that exact same variety that's growing on the other side.
So what was that? That was on YouTube, and that was Cali Crop Doc.
Yeah.
Cali Crop Doc, yeah.
Perfect. So if you're listening, get that sketch down, and as well as the House and Garden website to go to, you've now got a little YouTube video to go and check out there as well. So thank you very much. Top shooter. If that's everything that you wanted to say about Bud XL, then like we've mentioned, it's for everybody, but specifically for people who actually care about the plants and what they're producing, then it's Bud XL. Get that into your range.
Flavour and aroma, Bud XL is what you need.
Spot on. Now, top shooter, interesting question for you. What is the main difference between the liquid and the powder version, and who should be using which?
So the top shooter, actually, if you look at the dilution rate and you were to compare it in a gallon of water, a liter of water, to the dilution rate of the powder version, you'll actually notice that the EC on the powder version is quite a bit stronger.
Right.
So this is a little more gentle approach to a PK. So in our line, we're not a front load line. A lot of people flip into flower and pound PK right off the bat.
Yeah.
We still work on these other plant processes, building the roots, building the cell walls. And then at the very end, about 4 weeks before we're going to start our flushing cycle, we'll hit with either the top shooter or the shooting powder. Now, some varieties are a little more sensitive to PK. So whenever somebody's new to gardening, I always like to start them with the liquid version. It's easier to measure out, for one. And then the second thing is it's not as easy to overdo.
Yeah.
So if you're an experienced gardener and you know the variety that you're working with and that it's not as sensitive to PK as some of these other varieties, then go ahead and hit with the shooting powder. You actually get more bang for your buck when it comes to shooting powder. Like I said, the EC's higher at that dilution rate. And I believe it carries just a slightly lower price tag as well. But yeah, for me in California, I have noticed varieties of cannabis that do something called foxtailing, where it's like an elongation. The plant, rather than swelling up to look like a golf ball, will begin to grow fingers and kind of stretch out.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in varieties like Gorilla Glue, Sour Diesel. Those varieties are better to run with top shooter because you can retain more of that golf ball thing. You could run the shooting powder and you'll actually end up getting more weight. However, unless you're processing it in the end, for me, I prefer these nice solid flowers that are easy to trim and they're not going to fall apart in my pound when I bag them up. But for the tomato growers out there, if you've got a variety that feeds aggressively, go for the shooting powder over the top shooter.
Spot on. Yeah, you make a good point there, because there's the really it's the chili community in the UK that's big, and they're on the forums, and you wouldn't believe the murder that goes on in these chili forums. But it applies to all plants, to be honest with you. You can get the really stable genetics, these F1 varieties. And I think where people go wrong, and you can tell me if this happens in the US and if you've come across it, Merlin, is people get to grow with some real good stable genetics, and they think that they're the world's best grower because this genetic can take high C, low EC, overwatering, underwatering, bit of a fluctuation in environment. They do it for a couple of years and they think, listen, I've got this growing nailed down. Then they think, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to go for one of these more hybrid strains, maybe one that's new, not as stable. And they just think the genetics terrible. Yeah. It's not. It's just not as hardy as what you've been used to.
Or not as forgiving in most cases.
That's it. That's the way that they're just not as forgiving. I think these forgiving strains are one in a dozen. Mm-hmm. And if you want to become a good grower, these unstable genetics or these new genetics, they do pull out where you're lacking in a grower. Do you find that much in the US?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm an advocate for taking good notes. These people that spend a lot of money on the genetics over here, you want to make sure that you're able to feed the plant the best that you can. But, you know, certain things want more CalMag or can't take as much PK. And if you're going to try and dial these things in, you've got to be an attentive gardener that, you know, takes good notes so you can go back and make these reflections as you move forward, you know, noting your pH, noting your EC, you know, saying, oh, this week I'm applying a high PK additive, and just noting the response and being able to kind of counteract any issues that you might come across.
Yeah.
I think it's also about reading your plants as well. The more that you can see about deficiencies, the more that you're going to know how to actually come back then. Yeah. So it's taking that learning back a step again.
Well, I've got a friend that he was one of those people, and he used to do, he was a chili grower, and he had a very stable genetic, and he used to grow it all the time. And he said, I don't pH. I think you're an idiot for pHing. I've never pHed, and look at the results I get. And it was quite hard for me to argue with him because he did get good results. And I was like, I fucking hate this. Like one day, like I said this to him a good few years ago, one day you're going to come unstuck and you're going to wish that you pH'd. And he got fed up with this chili, and he moved on to, it was either the Butchulokia or the Trinidad Scorpio, one of the real
Trinidad
hot
Scorpion.
versions.
Yeah.
And he didn't pH, and he now, I'm going to fast forward the story. He now pHs more than anybody you know, because twice before the water goes in. Before the water going in. Imagine pHing before the water went in, dickhead. pHing the water, just the water. pHing after the nutrients have gone in. pHing with the additives. pHing every day. He's like, yeah, it's important to see it now. And it's, if you've got that same mentality of, I don't pH because I've always had good results, it's good to learn now while you're using stable genetics, because if you want to try something that's not, then you're going to come unstuck. So we don't just harp on about it because we want to sell more pH meters.
Well, this is it. At the end of the day, we wouldn't need pH meters if you didn't need to test for it.
Exactly.
We wouldn't need EC junctions if you didn't need to test for it. So there remains there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another thing to add about Top Shooter between the differences, especially with the liquid and the powder version, is depending on how you're feeding.
Yeah.
If you are hand watering or hand feeding, for example, you're going to need to use the Top Shooter rather than the shooting powder. It's just easier to maintain. It's easier to work with. If you're in a system, I'd go with the shooting powder personally. You're going to see that higher impact, like James says. Your yield is slightly higher. It's a higher EC to it, so you're going to get more impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's down to your individual process as well. I think.
Yeah.
What your style is.
What do we do most of in the UK? Top shooter or shooting powder?
Shooting powder, without
shooting powder by far.
Yeah. It's been a relatively popular product for a while. And I think there is a lot of people out there that know the benefits of it, and they've incorporated that into their recipe as we were.
Yeah, that's what I like about this industry is it ship products do make it into our shelves, because a lot of really good marketing or real good bullshit. But what I do like is that they get found out eventually.
Oh, yeah. And
that proves the point, is you're saying, James and Merlin, that the shooting powder is the better of the two, and people have found that out, and that's why it's a higher seller than the Top Shooter. So that's what I like about this industry. The good products, the cream really does rise to the top with our products.
Definitely.
So Drip Clean, it's probably the most ugly product of any cleaning product. People think, oh, I don't need it, but it's important.
It comes in a nice beige bottle.
Yeah. Ugly as in, like, we're not going to get all excited about a drip cleaner product, are we? It's the hardest one to get excited about. But I do want to talk about a very interesting subject. I'd like to get your take on it. So Drip Clean, without going into like loads of details, it removes salts from the medium and from your systems. If you're using things like AutoPot, it's great because it stops those blockages. Is that right?
Yeah, it'll reduce the amount of build-up that you'll get on the inside of your pipes, on the inside of your pumps and all those sort of things. I mean, you're still going to get some, especially with the roots accelerator and things like that. Like James said, it's quite a viscous product, so it is going to give a coat and stuff. But adding that drip clean in there just adds for a bit of a smoother... It's like oiling your engine, effectively. You're adding something to lubricate all your nutrients going through. There's a little question there, but I'll let James finish on something before I add any more to that.
Yeah, I honestly think it's like one of the most badass products we have.
Yeah.
This product, there's nothing else out, at least in the U.S. market, there's nothing exactly like it. Like, there's other products out there that are made to clean things up and break things down. So they use a corrosive means to do this. So oftentimes these are acids that we're throwing into our root zone that are not just breaking down salt, but they're also harming the microbial life. So, and they're also, these are more of like, this is like a Band-Aid type of product, whereas ours is more of a preventative. So it's not for existing salt buildup. This is more to keep that excess salt from ever bogging down your root zone. So, you know, as we know, like things like calcium like to attach to other things. So say calcium attaches to phosphorus. Now your two particles are going to be too large for absorption by the root zone. So this is called lockout. Yeah. Those large particles carry a positive charge. So what they've done is they negatively charge the drip clean solution to attach to that positively charged salt and actually pulls it out the bottom of the medium. Now, assuming you're getting runoff. Now, think about this with me. If you're not getting any runoff, you're basically relocating these salts lower down into the medium. So having some runoff, I do feel is important. And it's also just going to keep those salts from bogging down your root zone. So it's not a corrosive means. It's fully compatible with any beneficial bacteria you're using, so you don't have to worry about harming things. And it can be used all the way through at a very, very low dosage. So here in the U.S., it's 0.4 milliliters per gallon. It doesn't cost very much. Like, so 1 liter is going to treat how many thousand liters? Like 40,000 liters.
Yeah, I think the dollars may
is that right?
0.1 to a liter.
Yeah. Oof, that is concentrated. So you're getting a good bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just kind of helps keep that medium nice and clean for you. So it'll play friendly with all the microbes and enzymes that are in there.
Spot on. Now, here's the big question. Is probably something I'm going to do another podcast on, because recently I've come across even more evidence to back up what I believe. I want to see if you believe the same thing. So, do you believe in flushing?
So, flushing was taught to me in my first cannabis garden back in, I guess that would be 2006. It's something that I have continued to practice out of habit.
Yeah.
Although I've seen scientific data, as well as been really given like a hard time by one of my good friends for continuing to flush it. I'll admit it, like I'm growing medical cannabis out here. I've got a license. I'm allowed to do so. Yeah. We flush our plants typically 7 to 10 days is the normal flushing regimen. When I switched over to house and garden, they said, oh, well, if you use drip clean, you can flush for as little as 3 to 5 days. And that basically is because none of that excess salt is built up over time. So basically my thought in the matter at the time was, okay, I'm basically getting rid of the nutrients that are in the medium. Therefore, the plant is going to have to revert to uptaking whatever is stored within the plant system currently. So it's storing, like I said, the sugars in these foods. So it's going to take advantage of those. But now that I've seen some more research on the matter, and as well as have a friend that has given me a hard time about it, I do question too, as if it's really necessary. I mean, so I'll let you know the story behind it. We got this guy who comes around the Tahoe office. His name's Hollywood. And he's run this stuff for 15 years, house and garden. He's the biggest advocate down in the Placerville area for us. And he had an emergency harvest. So he basically had some issue with the landlord coming over. At the time, it wasn't legal what he was doing. Chopped it all down, hung it up to dry, took it to market, got all these people telling him how well flushed his stuff was. But in all actuality, he was feeding shooting powder the day it came down. And the flower burns to this nice white ash, which, if you start looking at the color that things burn, potassium burns white. So what are we feeding our plants at the end of their flower cycle? We're feeding potassium. And there's just kind of a lot of this bro science, I like to call it, because it's not real science. It's science that your bro told you. He's like, yo, bro, like, you got to flush your plants, man. So, you know, I've continued to do it out of habit. I've done it for years. I question whether or not it's fully necessary, and I have a buddy who calls me crazy for doing it, but I've continued to do it just because I'm kind of a creature of habit.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'll let everybody that wants to continue to flush, I'll let them off, because you're not doing it for your plants, you're doing it for yourself. And when you pour that water through the top and you see all the excess EC and pH rushing out the bottom, you're like, "Ooh, yeah, that feels good." So you're not doing it for your plants, you're doing it for yourself. And you're like, "Ooh, good flush. Yeah, I feel better now." It's like you've given yourself a shower.
I'd have to agree with James. I mean, it is that bro science. I was taught exactly the same thing. You've got to flush, you must flush and I mean, today it's more prevalent, I think, than anything. You're getting people out there telling you to flush for 21 days at the end of the cycle and things like that. And that just seems like 3 weeks worth of not giving your plant any food to me, which would always seem backwards. With the house and garden saying that it can be 3 to 5 days, as soon as I read that, I was like, well, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Tried it and it worked. Yeah. But then I've done a little bit more research. I've got people like James that have been, well, I don't flush at all. You're mad for doing it. But then I've got people who go, no, you're mad for not flushing for 21 days. So it's a very interesting subject. Personally, I think you don't need to. I don't think you've got to go into this extreme 21 days of it or anything like that. I think it's down to your personal preference. Yeah. If it feels it makes you feel it's making you feel better, crack on. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I really don't think it's making much of a difference to your plants, especially not your chilies, your tomatoes, anything like that. If you're flushing that, I don't think it's really relative.
Yeah. I'd say if you want to continue to flush, you crack on, because flushing versus non-flushing, there's no benefit to flushing, but there's no negative to it. Only if I've come across this, and I'd like your opinions on it. Some people, if it's a chili plant, but I do like to keep up to date with what's going on in the medicinal areas, because I'd love for the UK to one day turn medicinally legal. So if you were doing a 8-week flower on whatever plant it was that you were growing, then what people are doing is they're feeding for 6 weeks, and in week 7 and 8 they're flushing. I was always under the belief that they should be feeding for 8 weeks, and if you wanted to do a flush, you would flush for what would be week 9 and 10. And this is what people are going wrong, is on an 8-week flower, they're feeding for 6 weeks and then just giving the plant nothing for 2 weeks. So that's where, in my opinion, you'll start to see a negative effect to flushing. And if you don't flush and you do the full 8 weeks, you're going to get a much better result.
Oh, yeah, because you've let the plant lead its life effectively. You've not stopped it halfway through its flowering cycle and gone, well, now you're not getting any more food, and we're just going to give you clean water. Yeah. And this is where yields will get impacted, flavours will get impacted. Overall, just your whole plant health will. Yeah. I do think that you do, whatever regime you're running, whether that be any other company in the house and garden, you run it for the entirety that that feed schedule has told you to, whether that be an 8, a 9 or a 10-week feed schedule. Yeah. And then, like you say, do you flush on the back end of that? Exactly. I wouldn't go for the extreme 3 weeks, 5 days to a week, maybe even 12 days. It is going to be down to personal preference.
Well, I'd love, if I could have an impact on our industry, I would love to move the word flush out of our vocabulary and turn it to finish. Yes. Because I think there's a genuine thing to finishing your plants, using maybe a different PK ratio at the end, using something like BudXL at the end, is you are finishing your plant. So I'd love to move flushing out and bring in the word finishing.
And I think that more and more research is being done on that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm happy you agree, James. I think your guy Hollywood, he's a top-notch fella. I like him already.
He sounds like a good guy.
Listen, I was going to try my best to keep this to an hour 20. We're on an hour 20, so let's try and fly through some of these next few products. And if you want to real nail down on anyone, then you're more than welcome to spend a bit more time on it. But algae extract, the benefits of seaweed. If you use Root Accelerator, you know the benefits of seaweed because it's in there in high amounts. What's the algae extract all about? Why would somebody use that?
So, algae extract, cold pressed Norwegian sea kelp. It's been in our family for over 30 years. I like to call it a general plant tonic because it's got a little bit of everything going on. You got a little NPK, you got amino acids, enzymes. It's got a little bit of everything. Now, it is a very thick organic product. It can be used both as a root drench at 1 to 2 mils per gallon, or as a foliar feed at 1 mil per gallon. But this is actually what we're seeing are some changes in the U.S. with organic growers. People are starting to move away from the more organic stuff as we start to see the world becoming more and more polluted. So seaweed sequesters things out of the ocean. As we know, the ocean is polluted with heavy metals and all kinds of stuff. So as we move into the medicinal side of things here in the States, we're putting allowable levels for these things because they do naturally occur in our soil in products that are organic. So because we have organic gardeners, we need to allow some of these heavy metals. But we've just actually in Oklahoma decreased the amount that's available. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of these people that are using the organic products switching over to cleaner sources. And with the sea kelp, it is organic, and it does again sequester things out of the ocean. But it's been used for years and years and years in our industry for gardening, and it's actually going to be. This is going to be one thing that we're going to start recommending that you stop using after you flip into flower, because of what we're finding out.
Nice. So that an environmental benefit to sort of, you're going to sell less algae extract, but you're doing it because it's better for the environment. I think that says a lot about you and the company and people who we talked about connoisseurs with the product before, the Bud XL. For people who are bothered about the environment, this is sort of proof, and this is the first I'm hearing about it, that if you're bothered about the environment, then House and Garden are a nutrient company that are going to potentially remove some sales because they think that it could harm the environment. So if you're an environmentalist, which we all should be, but if you focus your product purchases around your environmentalism, then House and Garden sounds like it's the nutrient range for you. And do you obviously agree with that, because you're going to potentially remove algae from the nutrient regime
just from the flowering just from the flowering end of things, actually. So it'll still be there for vegetative growth. It's got a ton of uses in the product. So like I said, we've seen kelp work in gardening for years and years and years. People are going to be very hesitant to stop using it. Yeah. I personally, but it is in something like a medicinal industry, we are going to see like a little bit of a shift away from some of the organic stuff that we know might be containing some of those heavy metals.
Yeah, it's boss that you're aware of that, and you're bringing that awareness to our industry as well. I love it. Unless any Merlin wants to say anything about algae, I'm going to move on to nitrogen boost.
No, I'd just like to say, I think it's a product that isn't as popular as it could be over here, but again, I think it is more for that connoisseur that wants to break down into the individuality of feeding your plants and what that is all about. Yeah. But James has covered everything on that one.
Spot on. So nitrogen, I don't want to spend too much time on it unless you've got something amazing to say about it, because everyone knows the benefits of nitrogen. They know it's the most used element, or the plant needs it in the highest quantities within the early veg stages. Something I want to get your opinion on is the nitrogen boost. A lot of people are under the misconception that it's not needed in flowering, when my belief is that it's just as important all the way through flowering, but the ratios of certain other elements are needed in higher quantities. And that's when do you use this nitrogen boost, and what's your thoughts on the science behind nitrogen and why we should carry on using it in flowering?
We use it all the way through veg, and then we typically drop it out in flower unless you have a longer variety. So say you had like a 10 plus week variety that might start to autumn out early. Yeah. We'll use a little more of the nitrogen boost into there for say like 2 or 3 weeks into flower before dropping it out. Having it off to the side, is just going to put the gardener in control. So it's up to them when they want to drop the nitrogen or when they want to boost it.
Perfect. So for the longer flowering, you'd maybe keep it on for the first 2 weeks of flower.
Let's just promote that photosynthesis
exactly.
a little bit longer.
Spot on. I'm just going to... Merlin's got dead comfortable. And,
keep moving.
I'm going to switch the microphone. Cool. So nitrogen boost there. I don't think we need to go into a huge amount of detail. Quick question. I don't know. Could you foliar feed with nitrogen boost? If you wanted to give them a real quick green up?
I've only done it the once and it did work. Nice. I don't think it's anything that we actually recommend people to do, but I have used it in the past for that.
Is it not something that you'd recommend, but it maybe can be used if at grower discretion?
I would try it on one plant before doing it to your whole garden for sure.
Cool. And use it like quarter strength dilution.
Oh, massively. So I think I even went further than that with the dilution rate of it.
Okay, cool. Happy days. Top booster, the liquid PK. I actually put this in the wrong bracket here because I was making a joke, but with half covered shooting powder and top shooter. I was going to say, you've got 2 children, you've got the liquid and you've got the powder. Which one do you prefer? But I think you prefer your powder child, don't you?
Yeah, the powder one's definitely well behaved.
As opposed to the top shooter. But the top booster is like a PK 1314, has a special form of red iron in it. It's a EDDHA iron. And that actually is going to trigger ethylene production in the plant. So that's a ripening hormone we hear about with bananas. Basically speeds things along, tells the plant it's getting ready to die. And so therefore it's going to finish up its ripening process.
Perfect. The amino chelation is something that we spoke about earlier, and it's something that I'd like the industry to move more towards. But having said that, it's going to take a long time. So you've got 3 main chelators in the UK. You can tell me if it's different in the US. You've got EDTA, which is the most basic form of chelator. You've got EDDHA, which is what you've just talked about, the red iron. And then you've got another one, which is, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's something like EDPPA, and that's a third chelator. Now, that's in order of how good they are at chelating. EDTA is your basic one. It's good at a pH of, I'll get this wrong, but it's your lower pH, so from 7 down to 5.5. It's good at chelating in those ranges. Now your EDDHA, which is what James just mentioned there, the red iron, that allows the nutrient or the iron to be available in a much higher pH range, so it's more available to the plant. So for growers that don't pH, then that's the better chelating agent to use. And if you wanted to go one step further, you'd use EDDPPA, but that's so expensive. And I think the only benefit to it is that it allows the nutrient to be available above pH of 9, which you should not be going anywhere near. So that's why we don't tend to see it in our industry. But EDDHA is the best chelator that you can use in our industry. And that's what is that what you use in the top booster you just said?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Spot on. We've got shooting powder, but we've gone over that. We know that that's your favourite child, so we're going to move across that. You've got another product, pH stabilizer. What's that about, and how does that work?
It's kind of a funny product, actually. Basically, it's for people who run RO water. Yeah. There's certain brands of pH probes in the United States that won't give you an accurate pH reading until you've achieved an EC in your water. So this is essentially something to remineralize the water up to a certain EC so that you can get an accurate reading on your pH. So that being said, and I know this isn't going to sell any of this bottle, I use CalMag for that exact same purpose. I just bring my ppm up to like 150 to 200 parts per million with some CalMag. Yeah. And I have a bottle of the osmosis stabilizer, but I call it pH oops, because if I ever add too much acid to my mixture and my pH falls below my level that I want it at, I'll add a little bit of that to kind of bring that pH up. And you'll notice that too, like with RO water, if you're adding our base nutrient to RO water, it'll give you a really low pH. So this will help to stabilize that pH in RO water.
Spot on. That you've just touched on a big difference between the US and the UK, in that RO machines aren't massively sold in the UK, and we're in a place we're podcasting now in a place called Liverpool. Nutriculture's in the northwest, so they have really good water. And when I say good water, what I technically mean is it's got a low EC. It's on an EC of 0.2 straight out the tap.
Yep.
But in places like London, Birmingham, it can come out the tap at 0.8. And what people are doing is they're finding hard water nutrients to just add to their hard water, and it's the completely backwards. I don't think hard water nutrients should really be sold. I think if you've got bad water, reverse osmosis that shit and start from scratch. And that's a real problem. Is not many people do it in the UK, James.
I think it's picking up slightly though with using osmosis, and I think it had an insurgence probably 3 years ago. If I'm right, people started looking into it a bit heavier then, and I know there's been a few more machines put out there. I know we do one for Aura. But again, it seems like it's the lack of people jumping on board. Once it does, I think products like pH stabilizer will be prominent, and there will be other people that will come out with other things similar to it.
Just to shout out though, that Aura reverse osmosis machine, there's a few good ones in the industry. Hydrologic is phenomenal. I think that's globally a massive reverse osmosis machine. But I love Hydrologic. I love the Hydrologic team. They're great people. But I have managed to get my hands on the Aura reverse osmosis machine. And for compactness, ease of use, digital display screen, it's a really good.
I think speed that you get the water out of it as well.
The ratio is
a little bit
great.
Higher than some of the ones that I've seen before.
It really is. So if you're into your RO, check out your reverse osmosis machine. If you're not into your RO, learn about it and then check out the Aura reverse osmosis machine. It's a really nice piece of kit and just looks nice as well.
Oh, it does look very smart.
It's just a little tip of the cap to the Aura there. I do like it, and that's what the pH stabilizer would work well with. Magic Green, it's a foliar feed. James, how important on a scale of 1 to 10 would you say that foliar feeding is for a grower?
I mean, man, I would say a 5. I'm going to put it right in the middle because you can get by fine without foliar feeding, and you can also foliar to a point where you get lazy roots. So if you're feeding too much from your foliage, it can cause harm. I don't know that there is a foliar feeding too little, but this is basically an easy way to get micronutrients into your plant. So if you ever have signs of deficiency, you can come in with Magic Green or whatever product you need to correct that deficiency and foliar feed it. So CalMag is one that you can do, and you foliar feed that to correct a deficiency in a faster manner than you would correct it through the root zone.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're experiencing deficiencies, and one of my top tips and something I've only learned in the last year is I was talking to another Californian dude. His name will come back to me in a minute, but I was talking to him and saying, I've got this problem with the leaves and it looks as though there's a pest. It looks like the top of the leaf, the newest growth, is looking shriveled. It's got bites taken out of it, but I cannot find any pests anywhere. Like, it's really got me baffled. And he came back and said it's called, they call it phantom bug, but there's no bugs at all. It's actually trace element deficiencies. So he said to me, get your Super Thrive or get your trace elements, get your vitamin package, get it into the plant and see the difference. And it looks like, just to shout it out, it looks like you've got a pest and it's on the newest growth and it looks shriveled.
Does it kind of look like russet might damage?
Yeah. And you're searching forever for the pests and you can't find them. It's actually a micronutrient deficiency. So this is what this would work great for, Magic Green.
That sounds.
What were you going to say then, James?
Oh, I've actually seen that same thing in my garden, and I was wondering about it. I was like, what on earth is going on here?
It has your head baffled.
Yeah, I was like looking around because it had to have been a sizable buck.
Yeah.
To do that much to the plant. I was like, where is this thing? So that's pretty... I hadn't heard of that, so I learned something new every day.
Yeah, so yeah, it was mad to find that out. I can't remember the exact name, and I'm probably ad-libbing a little bit here, but he called it something like phantom bug. It looks like a bug's attacking your plant, but there's nothing there. It's a micronutrient deficiency causing
Wild.
malfunctions in
almost
your leaf.
Mutations.
So I need to bump up my magic green a little bit.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Me personally, I want everyone to foliar feed. Yeah. I think and I appreciate what you're saying there to 5 because you can grow a plant absolutely perfectly without it. But I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that your roots could become lazy. So it's a good swap of knowledge on today's podcast. I would probably put it around. I'd love everyone to foliar feed, to be honest.
But it's also down to your environment as well. If you've not got that dialed in and you are continuing to foliar feed every week or however, and your transpirations aren't correct and it's not uptaking fine, you're effectively polishing a turd in a way. You're not adding anything into what you're doing. But yeah, so if you get your environment sorted, I think foliar spray it is a need, really.
Yeah, spot on.
Go on, yeah. Another thing to think about is like if you ever have the presence of mold, like at that point, I would think not to foliar feed because you're going to be introducing more moisture to your environment. And there is a molasses in that magic green. And as much as it'll feed all the beneficial bacteria that we spray in teas up in Humboldt, it'll feed bad bacteria too. So if you've got a mold issue, like you're probably not going to do much foliar feeding.
We'll listen to this for people out. I've been missing out on the podcast. I've not been lazy in the last 3 or 4 months. I've been writing a lot of articles. I've been doing a lot of research. And something that literally in the last 3 months, I was writing an article for Garden Culture magazine. I think it was on powdery mildew. And during the research, I came across something that was quite counterintuitive. Powdery mildew happens because you've got high humidity. But what people do is they get the powdery mildew because of high humidity, and then they drop the humidity, and that actually increases the rate of infection. So it's a bit of a catch-22 with powdery mildew from what I've read. High humidity allows the perfect conditions for the spores to reproduce and to multiply. But actually dry environments, if you suddenly then drop that environment so it's dry, you'll slow down the reproduction, but you're actually speeding up the transmission from plant to plant because it's dry and spores become active. So it's a bastard, isn't it? It's
then you've got to turn all your fans off. You got no.
So no wonder powdery mildew is such a pain in the ass. You think you're doing the best by getting the down. You're actually helping it transmit from plant to plant. Oh, it's mad. But you learn something new every day, don't you, James?
Yeah, there's another one for me.
Every day's a school day.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Rhizoforce. It's not a product I don't know anything about it, to be honest. Who should be using it? Why do you use it, and when?
It's the only granular in our line. It's got a few things going on in it. It's got a nitrogen fixing bacteria. It's got bentonite clay for vitamins. It's got beet sugar to feed your microbes. There's really a lot going on in the product. It is something I like to give to these more organic gardeners who mix up their own soils. They get really excited when they start seeing mycelium growing on the topsoil. And they can kind of just know, hey, I've got some really good symbiotic relationships forming underneath. So this is something that you typically would use when you're about to transplant into the medium, about 1 tablespoon per gallon, mix it about 4 inches deep because it is better in the root zone than on top, as much as we do like to see that funky mycelium start to grow. It's better down below. So that's something also that people in Humboldt use to reinvigorate an old soil. So some of these people that have big soil beds or no-till, they'll go ahead and top dress with this, or they'll amend it into their medium to add a little bit of a nutritional value as well as all of that beneficial bacteria.
Yeah, can you use this in cocoa as well as soil?
Absolutely, yeah. Cocoa fiber is actually an amazing breeding ground for that, for microbial life. So, having something like this in there is going to get those colony-forming units going. You've got that nitrogen-fixing bacteria in there. It'll all be fed by the beet vinasse that's in there. So that'll help to feed all those microbes. And, we're really seeing good results with inoculating plants, and I think that this is one product that's a good start for somebody who wants to get some bacteria living below the surface.
Yeah, that's something I was going to say about the Root Accelerator Silver is there are some people that love to run clean systems, and they will run hydrogen peroxide in every feed, or they'll use products that are hydrogen peroxide related. And it's always just seemed backwards to me. I'm a big advocate of beneficials because, and then this is how I sort of sell it to our customers, is bacteria were here billions of years before we existed, and they'll be here billions of years after. There is no way on this planet that you, as a grower, in laboratories, it's doable, but it's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of equipment to keep stuff sterile. You call yourself a sterile grower, and all you're doing is you're allowing the Pythium, you're allowing other microorganisms that are much hardier to just take full control. There's no competing bacteria there. So you think you run a sterile system, you take your eye off the ball for 1 minute, all you're doing is creating a massive playing field for the negative bacteria that can form, such as Pythium, for your new root zone. So I'm a big believer in beneficials. And if you are running, or you think you're running a sterile system, I'd urge you to move towards the beneficials, because you'll have less issues and you'll have more benefits as well. I see huge benefits from using beneficials. So Rhizoforce is a great product if you want to, in your cocoa, your soil.
Especially for people in cocoa that are looking at building that rhizosphere there and maintaining it and keeping it healthy and happy. It will do that. I would also use it like a mycorrhiza, and when I'm transplanting, actually dust the inside of that hole with it, maybe onto the outside of your roots just before transplant, but having it mixed in with that media as well. And it does, you top dress it, feed it in. There's a few people that use it. I don't think it's picked up the sort of recognition that it deserves.
Yeah.
But it's something that we'll be working on in the future.
Listen, if you're doing the pot, if you're potting up and you've never inoculated, you dusted your roots before you transplant, just do it once. Mm-hmm. Just give it one go, and you'll never ever look back.
It's such a smooth transition from transplant.
Really, really good. Did you have any more to say on Rhizoforce? I think everyone needs to at least use it once, especially for that sort of a transplant inoculation.
Yeah, I would say, as opposed to like some of those mycorrhizas where you hit the root zone with it directly, this is going to be one that you amend into the soil, because it's not just bacteria. There's food in there as well. So we don't want direct contact with the root zone per se, or I should say we don't want concentrated contact with the root zone. So mix it into the top 4 inches of your medium.
Yeah, spot on. Now here comes the request. Here comes the part that all the growers love to hear at the end of the podcast. I believe you've got some starter kits. I don't know if Nutriculture have got any. It's not something I weighted them up on.
Yeah, there are starter kits.
There are starter kits?
They've not been sent over from the States. Yeah, we've built them together. There's going to be 10 available for your listeners.
Amazing.
And then if anyone that is listening to this wants to jump on Instagram and go on the Nutriculture UK Instagram page, there will be a few giveaways being run through that, and possibly a couple of the other little pages that we have as well.
Amazing. So starter kits, if you've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still with us, then what are we going to get them to do to get this starter kit? You're going to go on to, Nutriculture have brought us all together. So what's Nutriculture's Instagram page?
It's Nutriculture UK, all one word.
Cool. So if you go on to Nutriculture, at Nutriculture UK on Instagram, and what I want you to do is go on to their latest post, or find the house and garden post and tag at NPK podcast into that post. Then we'll know that and obviously you've got to do all the normal stuff like following Nutriculture UK, liking the posts and getting involved. We'll get you some starter kits sent out. If you struggle with those instructions, some people do, direct message us and we'll tell you how to get yourself a starter kit. James, socials and websites, what have you got for us? Where are people following you, and what website are they all going to find out more about House and Garden?
Check out on Instagram and Facebook. It's @ House and Garden Nutrients, all one word. And you can check out @HNG _Cup Hunters to see the nutrients in action.
Amazing. So for Nutriculture, it's @Nutriculture.
At Nutriculture UK, that's their main site. Mine is merlin.nutriculture And then we also have a new website that's just gone live, www.houseandgardennutrients.co.uk. And on there, you'll find feed charts, you'll find a few videos and a lot more in-depth information about the products.
Perfect. James, what time are we over there now in California?
We're looking at 12:43 in the PM.
12:43. What's the weather like?
It's nice and sunny here in Tahoe. Yeah, it's still springtime, so it's sitting around mid 60s today.
Oh,
that's Fahrenheit.
Well, it was sunny yesterday, and it was like it's been the bank holiday weekend. It's been the Easter weekend in the UK, and we had lovely weather Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's been beautiful.
Monday was quite okay, a little bit chilly. Just today, just decided to snow.
So not just a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we've got that's what we've got to work with in the UK, James. Yeah, like literally shorts and top weather on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a little bit chilly. Tuesday just decides to snow.
Now you're in your woolly hat and parka.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we're working with. So if you if you need us to come over and do anything in California, like pick some oranges or do some taste testing, you get us over there. I don't think it snows as much in California. Is there anything that you'd love to mention or talk about just before we sign off?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to Nutriculture and everybody over there that's been giving House and Garden the love and support that we've gotten through these challenging times. You guys are awesome. You kept the word of mouth going, and we really appreciate all the work you guys have done. So thank you all, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
It's absolutely been our pleasure. Something that I do want to mention, though, is Nutriculture really are going to try and get people's awareness of the Super 6. It's not just as amazing a product as Root Accelerator is. Follow Nutriculture because they're going to start going into depth on the Super 6. Well, it's going to be the Super 5 plus the Root Accelerator makes it Super 6. And get you talking about the aminos, the Bud Excels, the Multizymes. Get you talking about the rest of the range, which is phenomenal as well. So, James, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for calling in and talking all about house and garden products. The second that you can get over to the UK, let's have another podcast because we did. I feel like this was quite brief. I feel like we could have gone into a lot of detail on pretty much every product and the nitty gritty of what everything does. But when you can get over, let's make that happen.
I'm definitely down.
And Merlin, Nutriculture, thank you very much for bringing this all together and letting our listeners get the ins and outs on house and garden and some great knowledge from James. So thank you to you.
No, it's been a pleasure and thanks for having us. I'd like to say if there is anybody out there that is considering changing anything in their current nutrient regime, please consider house and garden. You will not regret it.
Yeah, spot on. And next week on episode 223, myself and Barry will be back together and we'll be talking about the crazy year that we've had and also dropping some knowledge bombs. We haven't been lazy, we've been learning lots and we've got a lot to talk about and we've got a lot of guests coming up, so it's going to be a good year for the podcast, definitely. But as you know, this podcast wouldn't be able to proceed without our perfect partners. We have CANNA Nutrients, our nutritional partner. And I just want to say as well, this is to all partners, that they have been so supportive during this lockdown in a way that the partners of the podcast, this is their platform to use just as much as anybody else's. And where some people may have been really adamant that we continue a podcast and some people would have had problems with it, all of our partners have had no problems with it at all. And I just want to say thank you very much to all of the partners for bearing with us during this extended break. And I really appreciate it. And just thank you very much. It just goes to show what type of companies they are and the people behind them, that they allow us to take as much time as we needed before we brought the podcast back. And then, like I said, me and Barry are going to get into more details about what the podcast is going to be like moving forward and what we're going to be talking about and the guests that we're going to get on. So we've got CANNA Nutrients. We go on about it every episode, but to people that are just listening into to this podcast, CANNA Nutrients are the most well-known nutrient definitely in the UK and probably globally. And the reason for that is they're very easy to use. So if you've never grown before, CANNA. You won't go wrong with them. You will get a good result when you use CANNA. You don't have to use every product in the regime. You can start off basic, but you pretty much guarantee the results no matter your experience within growing. So CANNA Nutrients, follow them on Instagram. If you type in CANNA Official, you'll be able to find the UK and the European CANNA Instagrams, and give the website a check out as well. CANNA Nutrients on Google, you'll be able to find lots of great information on how to grow there. Next, we have AutoPot watering systems. They've just upgraded. Oh, it's actually not just. It's when we left 2020, they just brought out their new valve and a new piping. So it means that blockages are basically a very, very, very rare occurrence now. They flood a lot quicker. The water gets where it needs to be a lot quicker, and it just constant improvements to the systems. They've also got bringing out new systems to the AutoPot family. So go and check out their website, autopot.co.uk, and follow them on Instagram as well at AutoPot. Next up, we have can filters. So if you need extraction and you want to keep any pollens, any dust, any dirt out of the way of your plants, out of your rooms, then use a fan and filter. Can filters are one of the most well-known brands globally, not just in the UK. They've got everything you need from extraction, intake filters. They've got everything that you need for the extraction requirements. So go and check them out. They're on Can Filters website, and go and check out their Instagram as well. Next up, you've got Gavita lights. Now, if you're new to the industry, you'll very quickly come across Gavita lighting, one of the most well-known if you've been in the industry for a while. And that's because of the technology behind them, how long they've been going for. And they were one of the first companies to really introduce high-end HPS lights, and they were the first company to introduce double-ended lights. Got a fantastic range, a light for every grower, a light for every type of situation you'll be in within your indoor growing environment. So go and check them out. Brilliant company, one of the best lights on the market today. We have SANlight LED. We love SANlights in our shop at NPK. One of the most, if not the most sold LED in our shop. Doing very, very well in the UK. And they've got a great team. So everything has been hand built. Everything has been done with love, care and attention. The optical lenses, we can get into a lot of information about the optical lenses and the spread of light, the efficiency. And the two people who run SANlight are just a yin and yang. They bring so much alternate education to SANlight, one being in mechanical engineering, one being in lighting and physics. Really great, solid team. So if you're looking for an LED on the market, then SANlight is the one for you. Last but by no means least, within the products, we have BudBox grow tents. Now, these BudBox have been around for nearly 20 years, and they produced the first white line tent. If you're going to go all out and get the best tent, you need the BudBox white line tent. They're called the Pro version. Thicker steel poles, military grade zippers, really reflective white lining, and great people in the BudBox team. I'm proud to have them as one of our partners on the podcast. Then, to bring it all together, we have Garden Culture magazine. Like us, they help spread knowledge in the industry. You can pick up the magazine every couple of months. The writers in Garden Culture are some of the best people from around the world writing about topics that mean a lot to them. And if you don't know Garden Culture, you can get it online at gardenculture.co.uk, or you can pick up the physical magazine from any good grow shop. Once again, thank you very much to all of the partners for sticking with us and not giving us too much down the banks for having an extended break. They all understood why, and it just goes to show, like I said earlier, the people behind these companies, really good people. Consider them friends. I'm proud to have them as partners of the podcast. To all our listeners, thank you very much for listening to episode 222, my favourite number, all the twos. Thank you to James, thank you to Merlin, thank you to Nutriculture for bringing this all together. And James, we will hopefully see you very, very soon.
Hopefully. Thank you, guys.
Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.